The lake glistened like molten silver beneath the pale moon. Mist curled along its edges, and the hush of the night was broken only by the sigh of reeds swaying in the breeze. It was said in the town of Lerida that no one should wander near those waters after dusk. Old women whispered that the lake took what it wanted and never gave it back. Elena knew the stories, but she did not fear them. She moved quietly along the worn path from the manor, the weight of her gown brushing the damp earth, her lantern casting trembling circles of light. She had slipped from the castle's halls after the feast, when the noise of lords and ladies became suffocating, their laughter sharp as knives. Here alone, she could breathe. Yet she was not alone. He stood by the water's edge. Dark hair fell into his eyes, his shirt damp from where he had leaned too close to the water. His boots were caked with mud, the clothing of a fisherman, not a nobleman. And yet, he carried himself with a kind of quiet defiance, as though the world and its rules held little sway over him. Elena froze, her lantern light catching the sharp planes of his face. He turned, and for a moment they simply stared at one another. "You should not be here, my lady," he said, his voice low, steady. "And yet here you are," she answered. His lips twitched, almost a smile. "The lake allows me. But it has no mercy for those born of castles and crowns." She felt a strange pull then, an ache deep in her chest. He spoke as if he knew her, as if he had seen the cage she lived in, gilded though it was. "What is your name?" she asked, though she knew she should turn back, retreat to the safety of her father's walls. "Matteo," he said. "Son of no one. Keeper of boats no lord would sail." "Elena," she breathed, though she knew he already recognized her. Everyone did. Daughter of Duke Armand, heir to the lands around the lake, bound by promise to wed a man twice her age from Castile. Forbidden. That single word wrapped around her heart, hot and relentless. They spoke little that night, but neither moved away. Her lantern burned low, and the mist thickened, but still she lingered, watching how the moon silvered the dark strands of his hair. When at last she left, her breath caught when she glanced back. He was still watching her, his figure half shrouded in mist, as though already claimed by the lake. That night, she dreamed of him. Days became weeks, and Elena found excuses: walks to the chapel, prayers at dawn, rides along the meadow, each ending by the lake. And each time, Matteo was there. Sometimes mending nets, sometimes setting out his small boat, sometimes only standing silent with eyes that held both sorrow and fire. She laughed with him once, quietly, over nothing at all. She touched his hand once, only in passing, and the heat of it haunted her for days. But gossip in the castle stirred like restless crows. Her maid glanced at her with suspicion. Her father watched her too closely. And her betrothed, the Marquis de Leon, began sending gilded letters sealed in heavy wax, letters that smelled of power and chains. Still, she returned to the lake. Still, she let herself be pulled closer to the man she should never want. And then came the night the lake claimed him. The storm had rolled in sudden and merciless. Clouds devoured the stars, and the air grew thick with the metallic taste of rain. Elena ran down the slope, her cloak snapping in the wind, her heart hammering. She had seen him rowing into the lake just before the storm broke, his boat a fragile shadow against the water. "Matteo!" she cried, her voice ripped by the wind. Lightning split the sky, and for one breathless moment, she saw him, standing in the boat, pulling desperately at the oars, the waves already swelling high. His face turned toward her, eyes wide, mouth moving as though to speak, then the darkness swallowed him. She screamed his name, but the storm answered with thunder. Servants from the castle dragged her back before dawn, finding her drenched and shivering on the banks. Her father raged when he learned she had gone out in the storm, but she heard none of it. All she saw was the moment the lake devoured him. They searched for 2 days. Men dragged the waters, pulled up reeds, prayed at the chapel. They found the shattered remains of his boat, but no body. The lake had taken him. The town whispered it was fate. The daughter of the duke could not be allowed to love a commoner. The lake itself had enforced the order of the world. But Elena refused to believe. She returned night after night, lantern in hand, eyes fixed on the black surface. She called his name until her throat burned. She begged the lake, cursed it, pleaded with it. Then, on the 7th night, she saw him. Not upon the shore, not in the reeds. No. His figure stood upon the surface of the water itself, distant, shrouded in mist. His hair hung dark, his face pale as moonlight. His lips moved as though whispering her name, though she could not hear. "Matteo!" she cried, stepping forward until the water licked her shoes. But when she blinked, he was gone. She thought herself mad. But again and again, she saw him. Sometimes in the moonlight, sometimes when storms gathered, always beyond reach. A shadow, a ghost, yet his gaze was never hollow. It was him. Alive, or something close to it. Whispers spread in the castle. Elena grew pale, restless, distracted. Her maid said she spoke to shadows. Her father threatened to send her to a convent if she did not prepare for her marriage. But her heart knew. Matteo lived, if not in the world of the living, then in the lake's depths. One evening, desperate, she sought out the village crone who was said to know the old ways, the truths whispered before priests came with their bells. The woman's hut smelled of smoke and herbs, her eyes sharp as glass. "You've seen him," the crone said before Elena spoke. "Yes," Elena whispered. "The lake took him. But he calls to me still." The woman nodded slowly. "The lake takes those who carry sorrow too heavy for the world. But it does not always devour. Sometimes it keeps." "Then I can bring him back?" The old woman's laugh was brittle. "Back? No, child. The lake never gives back. But you may follow. If you dare the price." "What price?" Elena asked, though she already knew. "Your place. Your breath. Your life among those halls of stone. If you follow, you will not return. You will belong to the water as he does." Elena's heart clenched. She thought of her father, of the weight of her family's name, of the heavy ring waiting to bind her hand to the marquis. She thought of the halls where she could scarcely breathe. And then she thought of Matteo's eyes, dark as the storm, calling to her across the mist. Her choice was already made. On the eve of her wedding, as the castle feasted and the marquis preened like a man already crowned, Elena slipped away. She wore no veil, no jewels, only a simple gown, white as bone. She carried her lantern, though its flame trembled in the night air. The lake waited, vast and still. And there, upon the water, stood Matteo. The mist curled thick around him, but his gaze pierced through it, steady and burning. "Elena," he whispered, though his voice was only the sigh of wind over the reeds. Tears blurred her vision. "I've come." He shook his head, slow, sorrowful. "The lake does not forgive. You cannot stay." "I cannot leave," she answered, her voice breaking. "Not without you. Not to the life they demand." He stretched out his hand, pale, wavering, as though the mist itself tried to claim him. "Then you must follow," he said. Her lantern dropped to the ground, flames sputtering out in the damp grass. She stepped forward, skirts trailing, water soaking to her knees. The cold bit into her flesh-like teeth, but still she moved. "Elena!" The cry of men echoed behind her. Torches burned at the edge of the trees. Her father's guards, come to drag her back. "Do not look back," Matteo urged. She waded deeper, water rising to her waist, her chest, her throat. The torches flared brighter, shouts filled the night, but she heard nothing except the pulse of the water, the whisper of his voice. "Elena," he said again, and this time she felt his hand close over hers. Cold, impossibly cold, yet real. The lake surged. The guards reached the shore just as the waters closed over her head. They shouted, cursed through ropes and nets, but the surface lay calm, silver and silent. The Duke wept. The Marquis raged. The town whispered of curses, of lovers swallowed whole. Some claimed to see two figures wandering the mist, hand in hand upon the waters, eyes glowing like stars. Others said it was nothing but the imagination of fools. But on certain nights when the moonlight bleeds across the surface, the villagers swear they hear laughter. Not cruel, not broken, but soft, entwined, belonging to those who defied the world and followed love into the depths. The lake took him. But she followed. And together, they are never parted.